Welcome back to another episode of our Out of Time, or what we're calling. Welcome back. We're discussing watchwinders.
Okay, take two.
Welcome back. You have your on-time crew here, bringing you an episode that's a little bit different from what we normally do. This is not going to be a full-length episode where we discuss a variety of topics. It's going to be focused on one orological topic, and we're going to be releasing these with some regularity, so a deviation from our irregular schedule.
Right. It's like all of a sudden we've taken some fiber.
A little bit of Metamucil or whatever what that is. In,
episode fiber.
Episode fiber.
All right. Okay. Well, Chase, this is an interesting topic.
It's highly contested. It's highly discussed. You know, I would say I would wager, not knowing this, that every single watch forum has discussed this.
I mean, this causes me lack of sleep.
It causes me lack of sleep, especially when, with these crappy loud ones.
Right. Okay. Well, actually, that was a full-blown lie on my end, but I'm definitely sure that's a full 100% accurate statement from you.
And that is watchwinders.
That's right. Okay. So we're talking watchwinders tonight, and we're really going to explore a variety of different issues with watchwinders. Are they really necessary? Are they a visual piece? Like, why would you buy a watchwinder?
Right. Why do people buy them? And I'll be the first one to admit I have watchwinders. And yes, that was a plural. I have a 4-pot, a 2-pot, and a single. So I can keep 7 watches running at once if I want to.
Sounds like a brake caliper. 4-pot, 6-pot.
Yeah, really. Yeah. That's true.
Cool. Okay, well, I have one too, and it's a sentimental piece. It was given to me by my brother's wife on my birthday. And it's personalized. It's got my name on it. Do yours have your name on it, Chase?
No, mine do not.
All right, I win.
You win. You have the personalized watchwinder.
I do. Thanks, Michelle, if you're listening. You're probably not, but, might as well.
So, I'll say why I liked having them. Obviously, keeping all of your watches running. It's convenient. It's also, honestly, really nice to look at. It's nice to walk up and see all of your watches ticking away, and especially when they are really well serviced and regulated, and you can see that their seconds hands are all really, really close to each other, and they're keeping wonderful time sitting next to each other in the box. But I've learned throughout my years of collecting that really they're not necessary or beneficial, and we're going to discuss all of the things that reasons why people buy them, and the reasons why maybe you should still consider one, and the reasons not to.
So watchwinders, in a sense, are kind of like watches. They're not necessary. You don't need one.
Question really is going to be, does it even make things better? And we're going to discuss that. So I'll say now, they can be really nice pieces of furniture. They really can be, like a jewelry box. You can have wonderfully crafted pieces, beautiful woods and hides or exotic materials that can complement your home, your office, and serve really as a pedestal. Like if you have a piece of art, you want to put it in a nice frame. When you're not wearing your watch, you would want to put it into a nice watchwinder. I can understand that. But on the other hand, you have to ask the question, do you want to cause harm to your watch, or do you want to cause premature wear? So the watches that I, to this day, keep on the watchwinder are my vintage pieces that have a calendar function that aren't quickset. Because I can tell you that winding your watch, manually going forward 200 hours or whatever number of hours it is to correct the date and time.
It's a hell of a lot of hours.
Is a chore. It really is not pleasant, especially if you choose your watch at the last minute. It's just something I'd rather avoid. And those watches I keep on the watchwinders. Now, I don't fill up all 7 slots anymore just because I don't have that many watches with that particular need. But that's how I use my watchwinders.
I mean, quickset's been around for a while, right?
Oh, yeah.
So these are like watches before, we'll say, the 1960s?
They're from
70s, maybe 60s?
They're from the 60s, from the early 60s.
Okay, so past the 60s, we've got quickset.
Usually. I mean, not always.
Okay.
It depends.
Okay, so here's how we're gonna do this. Okay, because we've got someone that we're underutilizing.
Oh, yes.
Okay, and I'm pretty excited because he's CMW 21, and that's a pretty big designation in the watch world.
We brought in some, as people would say, we brought in the big guns.
The big guns, right? I mean, we are kind of the big guns. I mean, we're all like 8,500 Instagram followers, which makes us pretty friggin' credible.
Yeah, but in terms of horology and watchmaking, we're like pistols, water pistols.
Water pistols, yeah. Oh man, I remember those. I do.
I do
Stick
too.
it in a pool, watch
Yes.
the bubbles go out, and then piss off every person that is in your
Within range.
trajectory. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So anyway, let's get to the point here. So we have brought on board. He is going to be a contributor to this show, an
Yes.
expert contributor. It's kind of
Yes.
like an expert witness, right?
I was going to say
My
expert
brother's in
witness.
law school, so that's all I know. So he is going to help us debunk or confirm certain things about horology.
Yes.
All right, excellent. His name happens to be Manuel Yazigian. He is a CMW21 master watchmaker.
He's done a few other things.
Well, why don't we do this? Why don't we have him give us a little bit more about his horological journey?
Pedigree.
Yeah, pedigree. Right.
Well, thank you. Thank you for inviting me. It's great to be here, and I'll see what it can do to help
Yeah, it's
with,
great
with
to
these
have you.
topics. So, yeah, a little bit about my background. I've been in this field for, I think, a little over 30 years now. And yes, I was the Swatch Group inspector for mostly their independent service centers, their independent providers. So I had the chance to visit pretty much all over the country and seeing how the watchmakers and the service providers is a term that Swatch Group used for watch repairers or watchmakers working in a field servicing watches. So my task was to make sure they had the necessary equipment, the knowledge, and the clean shop, et cetera, et cetera. And then before that, I was the watchmaking instructor at the American Watchmakers Institute, to where I taught numerous dozens and dozens. I've lost count now of watchmakers on the proper way of doing things. Many of them had kind of fallen behind over the years. Call it the quartz revolution. Blame whatever you want. So so my task was, you could look at it a milder form of boot camp in the various topics of horology or watchmaking.
Nice.
That is nice. I've heard the term, people use this all the time, the watchmaker's watchmaker. And oftentimes they'll be talking about somebody who I wouldn't even trust with my shoes. But you actually are. You were training the
You're like the
watchmakers. You
guy.
are the
Yeah.
watchmaker's watchmaker.
Correct. Yeah. Well, thanks for that. But I try to stay as humble as I can. But
I can imagine that would be hard.
yeah, well. So yeah, my task was basically to take the WOSTEP curriculum that was a 3,000-hour program, and shrink it down as much as possible. I wouldn't say that you become a watchmaker by attending the courses, but it was designed for existing watchmakers.
Right.
To improve whatever it is that they were doing.
So like
Right,
continuing education.
It was
basically.
continuing education.
Right.
So so that's what I did. And then after that, I handed over the baton to somebody else, and they're doing a great job now. And I just moved on. But I still practice horology. I have my own private atelier, and I still teach. I do private one-on-one courses, and also still do inspections. And so this way I don't get bored.
Sweet. Okay, I think we got the guy.
Yeah, I think, you're qualified.
Yeah.
All right, sweet. Let's get the show on the road then. And pun completely intended.
Those of us who are practicing watchmakers, our familiarity with the watch winder is more the one that we use to test the watches that we've serviced. So it's slightly different than the commercially sold ones that the public buys. So the ones that you guys buy is the ones that, especially the later versions or the current versions, they have different programs to where you can, make the winder work, only for a few minutes, stop for an hour or two or half an hour, whichever. And so that's how, that's the difference, basically, the main difference between what we use and what you guys have. So that being said, the watch winders that I guess, is it necessary? I would say yes and no. It depends. Again, there is no straight answer. It depends if you have a watch, like you said, Chase. If it doesn't have a quick set on it, and you don't feel like going through 15 days of fast forwarding just to get on the right calendar, then yes, that's where the watch winder will come in handy and keep your watch on time and on a correct date. So, but, from the perspective of a modern watch, where if it's your only watch and you don't have any other automatic watch, and you're wearing you're wearing it every day, you're hardly taking it off. If it's in good functional condition, there is no need to have a watch winder.
All right, so I'm going to ask you a couple of questions because these are some clear myths, and I think you can give us these are some common myths where I think you can give us a very clear answer. So there are some people that when they get an automatic watch, they might have only one or two, but they buy a watch winder right away, and they go, whenever they take that watch off, so overnight, they put it on the watch winder. Yes, no, maybe.
I would say that definitely no. If it's a modern watch, quick set, in good condition, it's not necessary. Why? Because if the watch is in good functioning order, it should work overnight and it shouldn't stop. If it does stop, it's not a watch winder problem. It's a watch problem, or if it's been previously serviced, then it's indicative of poor service.
Okay, there's the answer to that question. Yeah. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Clear. So, you do not need a watch winder to keep your watch running overnight. If you do, you have a problem.
Right. And it's really not even a matter of convenience at that point because, again, the 8 hours, however many hours you get to sleep, you're not going to have a watch that's going to go dead within that time period.
No, most watches have a power reserve of, let's set the bar really low, at least 36 hours.
Correct.
So if you're more than sleeping if you need a watch winder in between wearing.
And if I can add, is that obviously if you're not, extremely sedentary, or if you're using a walker to walk around the house and you're wearing automatic watch, then yeah, even if it is in good condition, it's not going to run well.
That's true.
It's not going to run overnight. So assuming assuming you're a normal person who's walking around every day, and that should be enough to wind up the watch, and it should last overnight and then through the morning. So when you wake up in the morning, it'll be on time.
Right. Or if you have 5-6 watches and you have a daily rotation where you might not wear a watch for 2-3 days at a time, that's a matter of, again, it's more of a matter of convenience than anything else. It's not something that's better for your watch mechanically or worse for your watch mechanically.
Well, hold on.
Or is it?
Hold on. Well, there's another myth going around. There's a very common belief that you need to keep your watch running because it's better for the oils in the watch. I've heard this more times than I can count.
Yeah, you and I both.
You need to keep the watch running because it's better for the oils. Otherwise, the oils will dry up or get hard or whatever it is.
Right. It's like comparing it to a car. It's like, if a car is sedentary for 30 days, every 15 days or so, or however many days,
you should start and drive it.
People think, they should start, drive it, put it back, and then you're good to go.
Well, okay.
All right.
I guess.
Yeah. So, here we go. Now, the moment of truth.
Right.
Okay. If that were the case, then shouldn't all watches, brand new watches sitting in showcases at dealerships all across the country, be in watch winders?
I'm going to have to pick myself up off the floor here with this logic. This was just astounding.
Okay.
Right. I don't know. I've never been behind to watch, the store. Maybe in the back.
So maybe all watch stores now that are selling mechanical automatic watch, based on that logic, they need to put all their watches in the showcases on winders, if that oil argument was to be used. So in order to debunk that myth, I would say the way the oil functions in a watch is that if a pivot is running in a jewel, in a synthetic watch jewel, the oil will stay in place by virtue of capillary attraction. So if it's been properly serviced, obviously, or if it's properly assembled from the factory, that oil will stay in place for 5, 6, 7, 8 years. So it's not necessary for the watch to keep running with a watch winder or otherwise.
Now, I have to ask you a follow-up question right to this point again. Modern watch lubricants, or the lubricants that is used in watchmaking today, they are, to my knowledge, all or mostly synthetic lubricants, correct?
Correct. Yep.
So the origin of this, the origin of this myth regarding the oils in watches could only possibly exist in using very, very old lubricants, which are not even really used in cars nowadays, where you have naturally derived, mineral-based oils, where you had an irregular molecular composition. We had a lot of long chains and short chains, and the oil would separate between the thinner and heavier components over a very long time. That is a situation that no longer exists.
Correct. Yeah, you make a very good point there, and that's to prove the point is that older pocket watches, in fact, balance staffs on old pocket watches had an oil undercut, so the oil wouldn't run away or seep away, or at least if it did, it would kind of stay in one place. So that oil running away business probably stems from that old argument from when they were using old natural oils. So, and also if you have metal-to-metal contact, if the surface isn't clean, and again, if the oil applied is, it's a natural type, it will spread. But running the watch isn't going to make it not spread.
Understood.
Okay. So again, that's where that argument of having to put your watch on a watch winder to keep the oil in place doesn't hold oil or doesn't hold water.
All right. So far, this argument, and I think this is probably the most consistently made argument regarding the oils, this one's been debunked at least 3 times.
Mm-hmm.
Damn.
So.
Those are some pretty good odds.
Yeah. I'd say it's not looking good for the watch winder, the I need a watch winder argument.
Mechanically.
Yeah.
Because, I need a watchmaker is the same thing. I definitely need a watchmaker. I need a watch winder is kind of the same argument. Again, is going back to I need a watch, because it's essentially, it's a luxury to have right now. It's based off of this conversation. It's not something that is absolutely necessary mechanically.
Right.
Subjectively, when it comes to, aesthetics, just like you said, if you have, some of the more expensive ones, what do they call, like Brown Safe? And what is the other one? That's Boovens and Zorweg, right?
Oh, those are really nice pieces of equipment.
They're beautiful. Yeah. They're absolutely beautiful. I mean, would I have one? No, because I have 2 watches and there's no need for that. And I just think that when I have that many watches, I don't really want to put them on display like that for someone to walk in and be like, well, that was easy. You know what I mean? So, there's that aspect. But anyway, I think we've pretty much nailed this topic fairly well. Like mechanically, it's not a huge thing for you to have. Like it's not necessary for you to have a watch winder if you have a mechanical watch. Right. If you have a manual watch, by the way, you shouldn't have a watch winder ever. And if you do, I'm sorry, you should just not be into watches.
There are surprisingly watch winders made for manual watches, but
what do they do? You stick the winder on the crown and then your watches?
Exactly.
Really? I've never seen that before.
Yeah.
All right, so now I sound like an asshat, but okay.
But really, what we're trying to get through here is the objective outcome of using a watch winder in most cases is actually negative/detrimental to your watch, with the exception of the particular case of the non-quickset calendars where you need to keep it running so that the calendar function is kept correct. You're not doing anything good for your watch, and you're probably doing harm to it.
Well, let's talk about that probably, because I don't like probably. Let's get as close to a definitive answer as possible. Is it probably causing harm to your watch, or is it really not that big of a deal?
Like I said, I don't know if I mentioned this before, but if it's the modern watch winders where it just basically mimics the average human movement, wrist movement.
The programmable ones.
The programmable ones are the ones that have pre-adjusted programs to where it turns, it rotates for maybe a few minutes, and then it stops for half an hour and it rotates again. Those ones, I don't really think it will cause damage. The danger lies in, say, someone goes online and finds an old beater from pre-modern watch winders that was really intended semi-professionally, that continues to turn nonstop. Okay, the watch winder keeps turning. Then they put their old watch on it, old or new, where the oils haven't, they've gotten old and hasn't been serviced for a while. They just keep running it and running it and running it. It's like revving your car engine and just nonstop.
Yeah, when you have old oil.
Without having changed the oil in your car and hoping that it will just keep running. Now you're causing mechanical damage inside.
Right.
I like to say to people, is your watch a complicated, a perpetual calendar with moon phase and leap year and all that? If it's yes, and you happen to not wear it all the time and just take it off, then it's safe to put on a watch winder, because you don't want to go through the whole rigmarole of pushers and correctors and what have you.
Because you could push the wrong one and then goodbye perpetual calendar.
Yeah, right. So in that case, in that instant, I would say it's necessary to have one for convenience purposes.
Right.
Again, not an oil, myth or anything like that. And
unnecessary convenience. I like that.
Well, such a first world problem.
I know,
right?
I don't want to set this $125,000 Patek Perpetual, so I guess I'm gonna buy this $55,000 watch winder.
There you go. And then the other thing is, like was mentioned, is if it's a non-quickset date, then and then especially if you rotate between several watches, you have 3, 4, 5 watches, and you take one off for a week and you wear the other one, you come back to it. It's like you don't want to keep rotating the hands, because it does add more wear on the setting mechanism, especially the setting mechanism. Yeah.
Okay, that makes
so
sense.
now we have some definitive answers and some somewhat definitive answers. I mean, it's kind of a subjective thing in this regard as well, because if you want that convenience, then you can have it, and if you don't want that convenience, you don't have to have it. So it's not a blatant necessity. But my question actually is, where did all this stuff come from? I mean, years and years and years ago, there weren't watch winders, right? I mean, if you had to wear a watch, you wore it because you wound it, and that was basically it. And I don't know how watch collecting was 40, 50, 60 years ago, but it kind of like these things kind of came about, right? And I don't know if they were influenced by professional watch winders, the ones that you were talking about, which, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it was like somewhere around 4 revolutions per minute, right?
So the instruments we use for testing purposes, for example, to see if the watch is a watch that I've serviced is going to build up enough power reserve, we put it on there's 2 versions, one that rotates at 4 RPM, 4 rotations per minute, and one that rotates at 1 RPM. So concerning the 4 RPM, it basically moves or turns.
Does that spinny thing.
Yeah, it does that spinny thing 4 times a minute. And in the process of that, it winds the watch. So you put it on in a designated number of hours, depending on, specific caliber and how many turns it takes for it to reach full wind. And then you take it off, and then you verify it, the timekeeping, and, over a period of 48 hours, whatever that power reserve period is for that particular caliber. So that's the ones that we have professionally. And I'm guessing it probably was inspired from that, and somebody had the bright idea of capitalizing on that on this concept, and it seems to have taken off.
Don't you love capitalism?
Yeah.
I think a lot of people capitalized on this.
Well, I mean, I don't know if I mentioned this before, but I have often cases where clients tell me, "Hey, I just bought this automatic watch, but I haven't bought the winding machine for it yet, and am I causing any harm?" And I ask, "Is it your only watch? Is it your only automatic mechanical watch?" And if yes, you don't really need a watch winder for this purpose.
Right.
If you wear the watch every day.
Sure.
I just want to call out one thing that you said because it was a little bit buried in the sentence, but something that people are worried about. It is not bad for your watch to stop. If anything, it's good. It just gets to rest. It's not wearing while when it's not running. There's nothing bad happening from it stopping.
Correct.
I'm assuming that oils are degraded faster if the watch is moving.
I would say so. I mean, if the watch is actually at rest, and again, all things being equal, the case is sealed. Assuming it's a watch you bought 2 years ago, brand new from the dealer, and it's a relatively new birth, and the oil will not dry up on its own. But having the watch function on a timing, I keep saying timing machine, but the watch winder is akin to you wearing the watch every day.
Okay.
So you are in effect introducing, wear into it, to a certain wear.
So I think we've explored this topic in pretty clearly, in depth. Covered all the aspects I can think of with regard to watch winders. What about you, Mike?
Right. That was a definitive conversation about watch winders in less than 25 minutes.
Yeah. So for all of you that have spent hours, like I know I have, researching this and losing sleep and wondering about it, here you go. This episode of On Time was recorded and engineered by Michael Senderovich with supervision by Tim Hatayama.
Team OTP is Kenshu Production and Savada and Dune on social media.
Our theme song was composed and recorded by Hubie Wang, and our expert on this episode is Manuel Yazijian. Follow him on Instagram at Manuel Watchmaker.
And while you're on Instagram, make sure to follow us as well at On Time Podcast. For the entire OTP team, this is Mike.
And this is Chase. Thank you for listening to On Time.